2-2, solving one-step equations. So this is the second section of chapter 2 that we're going to be looking at. So I can solve equations by using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So we're going to work on solving one-step equations using those 4 operations. We have 3 standards that we're using. I would like you to look at the keywords here in the standard, and you can go back and read the rest, but I'd like you to see we're going to explain. So we have to be able to explain, we have to be able to solve, and then our final one, we have to be able to create. So there's a lot of things going on here. So vocabulary for today, I would probably write this down. Solve an equation. It's the process of finding all values of the variable that make it the equation a true statement. A solution, a value that makes an equation true. Equivalent equations are 2 equations with the same solution. That means that you have 2 totally separate equations that are equal. So addition property of equality. So we have words, symbols, and examples, so we can look at each. If a number is added to each side of a true equation, the resulting equivalent equation is also true. So remember, equivalent means equal, so this is an important word. For any real numbers, a, b, and c, if a equals b, then a plus c equals b plus c. So here, if this is what it really means right here. If I have 12 equals 12, if I said I want to add 4 to both sides, which they did right here, is my equation still true after the result? Yes, it is. Here's the same thing over here with the -5. So if we agree -5 equals -5. If I add the same number, no matter what the number is, here we chose 7, to both sides, my answers becomes 2 equals 2. Do we agree 2 equals 2? Yes, so that's where we say we can add to both sides of an equation and not change the equation. It keeps it true. Subtraction property of equality. So once again, we have 3 different ways we're defining it. In words, if a number is subtracted from each side of a true equation, the resulting equivalent equation is also true. So this is the same thing as addition down here. If I have 48 equals 48, we agree that 48 is equal. If we subtract 9 from both sides, we end up with 39 equals 39. So as long as you do it to both sides, we're cool. It's fine. So opposite operations. So we have the operation right here on the right, and then we have the opposite operation, which is what we will do when we're solving an equation. Or I'm sorry, operations on the left, opposite operations on the right. So we have addition. The opposite operation of addition is subtraction, which means the following is true as well. For subtraction, it's addition. Here we have multiplication and division. They go together. And division and multiplication. So addition and subtraction go together, multiplication and division. They are each other's opposites. So we're going to solve G minus 25 equals 13. So the first thing we want to talk about is we've been looking at this symbol. And we've been looking at this symbol for a couple weeks. And this could either be called minus or negative 25. Well, I have to do the opposite of that because I want to get this variable by itself. So we want to isolate the variable here because we want to know what G equals. Well, the opposite operation of subtraction is addition, so I add 25 to both sides. When I do that, my objective is to get G by itself. So that's what I want to do, get G by itself. And if I take negative, remember the sign in front of the 25 goes with the 25, and I add 25 to it, I get 0. So these are opposites of each other. I bring what I have left down, which is the G, and then I have to do this one over here. 113 minus 20 or plus 25 is 138. Now, often we're going to be asked to go back and check. So, just like when we were doing substitution, if I said G equals 138, and I said I have equation G minus 25 equals 113, I would substitute the 138 in for G. I'm going to do this operation over here. So 138 minus 25 is 113. Bring everything else down. And I say, well, does 113 equal 113? Yes. So we are correct. So my answer is G equals 138. All right, so solve. I have negative 4 plus t equals 7. So here I have a negative, so the opposite of a negative is a positive. So that means I'm going to add 4 to both sides. If I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Bring everything else down, including the sign, because that won't always be a plus sign. And 7 plus 4 is 11. So I'm left, because I can get rid of the 0 now, with t equals 11. So let's go ahead and check that. So I'm going to take my equation. Negative 4 plus 11 equals 7. Does 7 equal 7? Yes, it does. So that's my answer. That is what t equals. Okay, so I have c minus 22 equals 54. So once again, I look at this sign right here and I see I need the opposite of subtraction. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. I have to do it to both sides of the equal sign. Negative 22 plus 22 is 0. Bring the c down. And 54 plus 22 is 76. So I'm left with c equals 76. Now I'm going to plug it back in and just check. 76 minus 22 equals 54. And I end up with 54 equals 54. That's correct. So I have x minus 6 equals 15. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides because that's the opposite operation. That goes away. I'm left with x equals 21. Go back and check. 21 minus 6 equals 15. 15 equals 15. So now here we're talking about multiplication and division. So I'm still going to do opposite operation, and I do have to remember that when I'm looking at these, when they're together next to each other, it means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. Remember, the sign goes with the number. So I'm going to divide by negative 14. What is negative 14 over negative 14? If you don't know, put it in the calculator and see what you get. Good, it's 1. So that leaves me with 1y equals negative 3. Now, we're going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to plug this negative 3 back in. So I have negative 14 times negative 3 equals 42. So negative 14 times negative 3 is 42. And 42 does equal 42. Okay, so I have 24 equals 4/3 d. So this is still multiplication because they're right next to each other. So the opposite of that, in order to get d by itself, is to divide by 4/3. And I know you're like, oh my gosh, I don't remember how to divide by a fraction. Well, remember, we take the reciprocal and multiply. So the reciprocal means I flip the top and bottom, so I multiply by 3/4. When I multiply fractions, I put a 1 under the whole number. This 4/3 over 4/3, if you want to check in your calculator, is 1. So now I take 3 times 24 is 72. 4 times 1 is 4. That equals d. Now we all know that's division because fractions are division. And 18 equals d. So I'm going to check. So I have 24 equals 4/3 times 18. Same thing here. With a fraction, I have to take and put it over 1. So 4 times 18 is 72. 3 times 1 is 3. 72 divided by 3 is 24. So we say, yep, we are correct. Okay, tonight we are going to watch the video and take notes. So that's 2 points. So you've already watched the video if you're here. Then we're going to complete the WSQ by either filling out the Google form with what you learned or by recording it in Flipgrid. So you may use the Flipgrid if you don't feel like writing it out. Make sure you write it out well.